Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Your life coach is back. Great to have him here. That would be Dan Clark. How you doing, Dan?
I am doing great, Steve. Doing great.
Always great to meet up with you and talk about ways how we can transform our lives, make them better. You look like you're dressed for the winter. What's it like there in Missouri?
Yeah, actually, it's cold. It's like 17 degrees outside. The snow is so hard that you're walking on top of it. It's kind of weird. It's really, really hard snow today.
Wow. How much snow would you say you got so far?
Well, we got about 3 inches, I think, and it's kind of slowly, settling in, but it's kind of weird. We don't usually have really hard snow here because there's a lot of humidity. So like when I was walking to my front porch last night, getting home late last night, like there's no footsteps in the snow.
Wow.
This is really weird.
that is weird. It's an interesting trick. I would like to let my dog out and let him, try and navigate that. Interesting. Yeah. New York area, we have mixed precip and like 37 degrees. Kind of the same weather. We had a little, maybe an inch last night, something like that. But we got a lot to talk about today. And the one thing we're going to dig into is self-awareness. Now, you may have heard that term before. You might have wondered what that is. You might have an idea that, it's just me being aware or how people are aware of me. But let's break that all down. What is self-awareness and why is it so important?
Well, self-awareness, and I mean, this is a great topic to be talking about when we're thinking about who we are as human beings, is, if life is not working for you in the way that you want it to, mostly it's because we're not aware of how we are influencing the world. And self-awareness is what I'm doing that creates or influences the world or anything that I'm doing. And our ability to be self-aware highly changes the way that we think about the world. Now, here's an interesting piece about that, though. Our self-awareness is not about what's happening around us. It's about what's happening inside us. And that's the most fascinating part about transformation and thinking about how you live our life. Most of us think about what's happening outside. But if you become aware of what's happening on the inside of you, you can actually manage almost any relationship or anything that's going on around you. So that's why self-awareness is so important.
You just broke the stigma on that whole thing, because when I think self-awareness, I'm thinking how I present myself to other people, how they're going to perceive me. And that's completely not right.
Well, it's not that it's not right, but that's always our focus. But if you have some drama or trauma or emotions on the inside of you that you're unaware of, if you can't feel what's happening to you, then you don't really know how to manage the room. It's called requisite variety. That means that you are able to really manage all the emotions that are going on the inside of you so that you can manage the emotions that are in the room. Someone that can read the emotions in the room or read what's happening around them is very powerful, because then they have an understanding of what they can and can't say and what they need to do. Most of us just do it by rote memory, or we kind of have this idea what we're supposed to do, as opposed to really being fully present. And when someone is alive and present, then they're absolutely able to find out what needs to happen, because our bodies, our emotions are our natural wisdom. And in our current culture, we just don't know how to pay attention to our body or the emotions that are happening on the inside of us.
How do we do that?
Oh, it's not easy, actually, because again, I want to make a statement here about something that I think that's fascinating. In the current United States, we are the most educated about anything you can think about, whether it be health or wealth or relationships or how to eat. Doesn't matter. But we are the most unhealthiest nation ever. And that's because we live above our neck. We live up here. And learning how to pay attention to our emotions is learning how to actually feel what's happening around you, because self-awareness is about noticing what's happening around you. Let me read you a statement real quick. Sure. Self-awareness is a psychological state where you become focused in your attention about you. It's also two different parts. Self-awareness is my personal self-awareness and my individual personal awareness. I'm aware of how I personally influence the world, and now I'm individually influence the world. Well, actually, let me say that a different way. There's a public self-awareness and there's a private self-awareness. And our public self-awareness is how we are out here. Our private self-awareness is how we are inside. And our private self-awareness is the most powerful thing to learn how to do. And that's the thing I've been teaching for a number of years now. And I was just working this week with a couple of business owners, and fascinating how they are recognizing how if they become aware of what's happening, they're more calm, they sell better, they actually are better at leading meetings. And actually all of their coworkers or anyone that works for them or with them recognizes that they actually are able to speak more clearly and more confidently because they're not aware of, or not afraid of rather, an emotion that may accidentally show up.
Dan, you answered my question. I was just about to say, which is harder, your public or your personal? And I was thinking right away that how you're perceived in the public is easier to craft from within than it is to get within and deal with everything inside you.
Exactly. Now we have this skill if we're a professional, particularly if you think about politicians who are attacked a lot, they have an ability to manage the emotions on the inside of them when they're being attacked. And that happens to all of us when we're in the public realm, right? However, in your personal life, it's a lot more difficult to manage those emotions. And there's a reason why. That's because the closer someone is to you in brain development, like someone that you're married to, or a child or brother, sister, mom, or dad, someone that's close to you has more of an effect on you than someone in public life. That's why if you can manage these emotions in your private life, you can manage them much easier in your public life. Because in the public life, if you don't feel the emotion, then you're actually not able to communicate really, really well, because emotions and language, if they're not tied together, then people notice that. A really good speaker, someone who's a really good salesperson, is connecting with their emotions at the same time they're talking about what they're talking about. Let me give you an example. Vulnerability is my willingness to feel the emotion that's happening on the inside of me. I just don't have to tell you. Vulnerability is my willingness to feel the emotion that's happening inside me. I just don't have to tell you.
I'm processing that right now and applying it to myself. And it's interesting that this is what you're so great at what you do, because you get to the core, literally the core of emotion. How do you deal with that situation where somebody is close to you and just is able to permeate you and as opposed to somebody who's a complete stranger?
Well, they charge you. And when you get charged, that means that you have unprocessed energy on the inside of you. It's not hard to think about. You have a bucket of anger, you have stuff that's happened to you in the past, and that bucket gets charged. And when it gets charged, it means that you're off and running. Again, let me go back over some details. I have a free emotion class. If someone goes to my website, and it's at the very top banner, if you take this emotion class, it's about 8 weeks. It's fantastic. You'll learn all these details, really how emotions affect who we are and how we live our life. But emotions that are learned in the first 7 years of our life is how we live our life. It's kind of like our belief system. And being self-aware, self-efficacy is a word I want to use here, because self-efficacy means that I learn how to manage my fear and my phobias. And my fears and my phobias, if I can learn how to work with those, in other words, I'm going to have fear. I'm going to have things that show up, these phobias about, I'm like my belief system. I believe that people should believe or think the same way that I do. And my phobia about how things are supposed to be. If I can learn how to manage those in a way where they don't affect me out here, that means that I'm going to be calm and able to speak from my core self. Remember, emotions are natural wisdom. And if you're connecting with what's happening on the inside of you, the wisdom that comes out of you is pretty amazing. And so fear is going to show up. But if there's a whole bunch of fear, now I'm going to use this also as anger. If anger is on the inside of you about lots of other things in the past, if you have someone that just that they just get angry all the time, or they can't seem to control what's happening in their world, that's because they haven't processed anger from the past. But I want to take a bunny trail here, okay? Steve, talk therapy is dying, and here's why.
How do you define talk therapy?
Talking about what happened to you when you were 12 doesn't get the energy to go away. Talking about what happened to you in the accident. Now, sometimes we need to process stuff, but talking about things a lot that happened to you. When someone is a leader, they don't gossip because they don't repeat old stories. They also don't tell old stories about themselves that were harmful. And that's because when you talk about the stuff that's happened to you that's harmful or unpleasant in the past, you make the neurological pathways deeper. So we don't want to do that, but we want to be able to release the energy that's in those old events. So how you do that, if you're present in the moment and you're feeling hurt because something happened, the hurt that you feel today empties the bucket of hurt from the past at the same time it empties the bucket that's happening, or the emotion that's happening right now. That's why being present, learning how to not push emotions down, is so powerful.
Do we really push those emotions down, or do we deal with them?
Well, that's a great question. Depends on who you are. The best way to tell is, have you ever have you heard the idea about, kick the dog, slam the door, throw the dish kind of idea, right? When we're thinking about that, what that means is that something that's happening inside you isn't related to the moment. Now, if you're ever like bigger in a moment than it really needs to be, like angry or upset or hurt, that means that this emotional bucket has been triggered. In self-awareness, we're aware of those emotions as they show up. Now, again, this isn't an easy slide because we have to practice becoming aware of those emotions before we get to the big moment. So let's think about playing basketball for a moment. I'll use an analogy for you. If I want to be a really good basketball player, I have to shoot a lot of free throws so that in the game I can shoot the winning throw, right? Well, understanding how my emotions work is learning how to practice away from the big moments, how to be self-aware. And that's a skill. Life is about learning skills. If mom and dad or the ones that raised you didn't have the skill of connecting with their emotions, then what happens is we don't typically have that skill either because it's something that we learn by the environment that we're raised in. That's why this self-awareness is a powerful skill, because in all circumstances, it gives you the ability to notice what's happening around you because you can notice what's happening on the inside of you. Now, another slide here real quick. If you are aware of what's happening inside you, then it doesn't overtake you. And also it means since you're aware, you're able to be better aware of what's happening in the other person or in the room. So being aware of what's happening inside you is very powerful unless it's overwhelming. Now, again, practicing how to be aware of your emotions is the beginning of true being in charge of your world and being able to be the kind of person that you want to be.
A lot to process here, and
way too much stuff.
and it's so on point what you said before in terms of you not having the skills. If your parents didn't have those emotional traits and showed you or pass it on to you, then you get propelled into life and the world, and now you're reacting to what happened then and trying to navigate it. So it's almost like it's a spiral. It's a snowball going down the hill that just keeps getting bigger until you stop the snowball and fix it. So at that point, now we're talking about self-awareness and realizing how you deal with emotions. How do we do that? Like I'm hearing you. It's crystal clear. The mission is there. What do we do and how do we do it?
Well, it starts with being aware of what your core values are, what you really think about is important to you. Most of us don't think about core values because your attitude that you have toward the world comes from the experiences that you've had in the past. And my belief system is learned. It isn't something that we're born with. And the belief system that we have, like people shouldn't do that, and they shouldn't behave that way, is a way to begin to become aware of the things that are happening on the inside of me. I got a really easy test that you can do to kind of become aware of what's happening inside you. You'll love this idea.
Go.
If you made a list of all the things that you disliked, just made a list of all of them, and then you made a list of all the things that you liked, what happens is your brain becomes more aware of the things that you dislike. Now, let's think about how that would work for a moment. There's, I hate that, right? When you say I hate and this makes me angry, well, it's a lot easier to move away from I just dislike that than it is that makes me angry, right? So if you practice disliking things, it's soft. It's easier to move away from it, but you have to practice it. So making a list of all the things that are happening in a day or a week or even a month that you dislike that show up, like I dislike cold weather, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like this kind of dislike. Who put that railroad track there? Or who put that sign there, right? That's a stupid, silly sign, right? I just like the way that looks. I don't like this color. If we're aware of dislikes, it softens us and we become aware of the emotions that are showing up when we just think about our dislikes. So it's like shooting free throws. You're slowly becoming aware of the discomfort of acknowledging what you dislike. Opposite of that, becoming aware of what you like. It's powerful and slowly becoming aware of the emotions of or the body sensation that you're having about your dislikes.
So I wrote a few things down here on the dislike, not the hate column, but the dislike column. And we do have time, so I'm going to share a few of these, and I'm only doing it because I want to understand for everybody else, is Sure. This what you're talking about? So things I personally dislike, and this is just top of my head, dishonesty, people who aren't loyal, people who push their issues on you. And again, you allow that, but it's always there. And let's start with that. Let's start with something.
Okay. So 3-year-olds don't have any of those inside them.
I do not. This is true.
Neither do 5-year-olds.
I want to be 3 again.
Exactly. So in order to be free, it's because you've had experiences that have created unpleasant emotion, and you decided to hold on to that emotion to create that belief system. See, it's not that someone treats you badly and you just like people are disloyal. What's really true is you just don't like it. Steve, your emotions are your imagination. It's inside you. No one makes you have an emotion. It's been created on the inside of you by past experiences. So recognizing that when something happens, nothing's more than happening the fact that it's just a dislike for you. It doesn't matter what they do. If you want to create your world, you learn how to manage your dislikes. You just don't like it.
So let's say we wrote 3 things down, 5, whatever it might be. How do you attack it? And again, great comparison. My dislikes can be different from yours because you may not have dealt with somebody who's dishonest. I find that.
So when someone says, I just hate dishonesty, what they're really saying is that I have been hurt so much by dishonesty that it really makes a big charge in me. So the difference, the slide would be thinking about the fact that it's not good for them to be dishonest, right? But how does it affect me? Now, if I'm aware of that it makes me really unhappy, that means that I have a lot of unhappiness inside me about that in the past. Well, I need to learn how to lower that by letting go of that. I need to let go of the past events that have happened to me. And that's how I would say that.
How do you do that?
You just simply say, you think about the event, you just let go of it. Close your eyes, spend 10 minutes thinking about, I'm not going to let this event control me anymore. And then when you get to the circumstance where someone lies to you or is dishonest or is not loyal, you think about it for a moment about what are they doing to affect me? Well, the big effect is my old stuff. But if it's just a lightweight effect, then I need to work with the relationship by suggesting to them, look, every time you do this, I have this emotion. So we need to figure out some way this emotion isn't so powerful in me. I need you to change your behavior a little bit because I don't want this to be so powerful inside me. See, there's a couple of things that are important to talk about, and it's called relationship ending behavior. Oh my gosh, you're getting way too much information out of me. I got way too many things to say. There's relationship ending behavior, and there's relationship endearing behavior, and then there's behavior that doesn't matter, right? Well, relationship ending behavior, we always think it's the big one, right? But you can only tolerate unhappy things for a while. So when I'm having these unpleasant emotions with anybody, whether it's a coworker or whether it's a relationship I'm in or a child, doesn't matter. When I'm having unpleasant emotions, the goal here is to help them understand that their behavior is creating this inside me, but it's about me, right? But I get to choose how long I can tolerate that. That's what a relationship is about. But here's the fascinating part. If you can repair what you're experiencing with that person, love only shows up in reparation. We think that love is about feeling good and spending time and you meeting all my needs. No, that's just lightweight. True depth of relationship is repairing things when we get harmed. But the level to which I'm able to repair it is the level to which I'm able to let go of it before the harm happens.
Well, obviously, in a relationship, it's all about the communication, because if you don't communicate how you're feeling to the other person, you're not going to make any progress anyway.
Well, in business, we have a tendency to think that I can't have both. I'm going to work really hard, 80, 90 hours a week, and build my career. And I can't have a relationship with someone because I have to be dedicated to them or to my business rather. And I can't really have both. And that's why men and women often think that you can't have both great relationship with your family, your children, your spouse, and have a great business. Well, that's what we're talking about this, because if you can recognize that what is happening in your personal life directly affects how you do your business. That's why when someone shows up in my world, I really want to work on the business side. But if we can get the emotions of what's happening inside them together about their personal life first, everything changes, because it changes the core person. They're kinder, more gentle, more self-aware. They love how they feel. They have more joy. They smile more. They're more happier. The joyfulness, the playfulness shows up because they're not afraid of allowing their emotions to show up and just flow through them.
There's a lot we're processing here today. And the core values, see, it's so interesting when you say core values, because initially I would have thought something totally different instead of writing your dislikes down. But I guess that defines your values. It
does, because for example, for some of us, values are like, we're never going to get a divorce, right? Well, that's a value, right? Or the other side of that is that there's lots of divorces in my family. It's not important to me, right? That's a core value. Core values are what you believe is true for you. But most of us want our core values to be true for everyone. For example, if your core value is living life to the fullest, or your core value is a good work ethic, if someone doesn't have a good work ethic and you're with them and you have a core value of a good work ethic, you're going to not like them because they're not like you. They're breaking your core value, right? So your core values attribute how you see the world. Again, those are learned. So understanding that the basic 5 or 6 core values that I have, and I've got another class on this also, I teach this in my practice, how to understand the things that charge you about how people's behavior is also about your core values. The deepest thing that you believe about the world affect you the most. You know, it's kind of interesting how our belief system works, because our belief system is based on the experiences that we have, and we integrate that to, which is why we have this stuff going on in the world. We integrate that into our thinking, and we believe that we are right about how we believe about the world. But a true healthy individual doesn't have a fixed mindset. They're open to, I mean, when you show up in my world, I'm willing to change my mind about anything. I mean, I'll listen and spend time with you. I don't have to integrate it if I don't like it, but I'm going to allow you to help me understand what I want to understand. Most people in their belief system are afraid if they lose or let go of what they believe, life is going to not be healthy for them. So we're all talking about the emotional construct of learning how to be in the moment and present and not be afraid. Remember, fears and phobias about what's happening in your world.
We're with Dan Clark today. He's a life coach. You can find him at transformedlife.net. Great website, Dan. You have all that information there. Just what we're talking about. We have the core values and the self-awareness. I want to circle back for a sec and talk about how you, I guess for lack of a better description, squash those things down that do bother you. I don't find it's easy for people to do that. So I don't know if there is an easy way. I don't know.
So ask me that question in a different way, Steve, so I'm clear about what you're asking me.
So let's say people who are dishonest, you know, that we use as an example, is a core value and it bothers you. And then when you detect somebody's dishonest around you, that it bothers you, but you need to work on it internally. And you talked before about, you know, the bucket and pushing it down. I want to get a little deeper in the pushing it down or push whatever it is, pushing it away so you can deal with it.
Why does it bother you?
Obviously, like any other core value, I'm sure it happened to somebody.
Did they steal from you or someone else?
It would be me.
Well, if it was you, then is that relationship repairable or not?
Nope.
Then move on.
Move on. But we talked about a core value when you still have that challenge in you where you're triggered. I guess that's a better word, where somebody
so you see a coworker stealing, right?
Yep.
Being dishonest, right? What effect does it have on you? See, life is about how is it going to really affect you? See, we have so much of a tendency to want to be in everybody else's business. That's where gossip is so important. If it's not a direct effect on you, let go of it. When I said move on, what I mean is if someone's stealing from you, move away from the emotion about it and just have a boundary with them. It's just that simple. You just can't steal. I mean, you just can't borrow my stuff anymore. Someone borrows my truck, and they mess it up. I'm not going to let them borrow it again, right? It's that simple. I get to decide how much I want a relationship with them. I get to decide what kind of relationship I want to have with them. I'm deciding, right? It's not hard to have a dislike boundary. I just dislike, I'm never going to let you borrow my truck again because you broke it or you tore it up while you rode. I mean, when you borrowed it. So understanding the lightweightness of how we can move toward just having a boundary with someone. I mean, it sounds more complicated than it really is. Lightweight boundaries are that hurts. I don't like that. At some point, however, we get done with that behavior. But when you are over the top and it's not really affecting you, it might be affecting your job, you have to learn how to move away from the high level emotions, which is practicing, why is it important to you? Why is this so important to you that everyone around you have this great work ethic? Or why is it so important that everyone be honest? The world is just built that way. The statement that I love is called, it's just true. It's just true. What can you change about things that aren't about you? Learning to manage your own emotions is super important.
What about when we talked a little while ago, things that have happened in your past, and you said that your childhood kind of dictates your future from up to the age of 7. What about if there's things back there and you've identified them, you know them, what it is, why it makes you what you are today? How do you work on that?
Great question. Well, again, there's a lot of theories out there about talking about those events and kind of working through them. And one of the dangers is that it makes it more powerful, because when you talk about an event that was very harmful in the past, you make those emotions more powerful. One of the best ways, and I love this idea, is to practice what we call, it's kind of a form of a meditation, which is where you would close your eyes and you would not speak the words, and you would think about the event that happened. And as you're thinking about the event, you're watching it play like you're watching a movie, and you're watching all the events that happen. And after that event is over, you say to yourself how you're going to let go of the emotions in that event. And then when you get done, you open your eyes and you practice how you're going to let go of that. Why this works is this: emotions are only experienced when they're verbalized. I'm angry, I'm hurt, this is uncomfortable, I'm frustrated. So if you're thinking about the event and letting go of it silently, not talking about it, it actually begins this process of letting go of the energy on the inside of you. Super easy to do if it's an event that you feel like you must work through. Now, what I'm talking with you about also is best if done with someone that can help guide you on that, but that's a very simple way to do that.
I love that. And that really makes a lot of sense in that what you just said, if you verbalize it, then it becomes the reality because you're talking about it. Whatever it is, I'm hurt by that. Let's say back in the day, you got abandoned, whatever it might be, and you're still dealing with it, but thinking about it, and then it's a form of meditation, and you can't be distracted. Your eyes are closed and you're thinking about it. Should you say anything to yourself when you're done thinking about it? Just let it go.
Well, yeah, just let it go. And then when it shows back up, again, the skill here is to remind yourself, hey, I let go of that. I let go of that. And your brain, because you had an event where you let go of it, actually works. Again, emotions that are expressed are powerful. That's why when you talk about it, it makes them more powerful. That's why we don't want to talk about something we want to let go of. We can think about it. Again, like I said, imagine it. And when you're imagining it, when you get done with it, you practice saying inside yourself to let go of it. And we all have a dialogue inside ourselves about what's happening, right? So when that event shows up again, you just say, I let go of it. I'm letting go of it. And your brain will do what you actually tell it to do.
We talked about a lot of stuff today. And I think what you just said was one of the most powerful, at least in my opinion, of what we're talking about. And I have one other question for you. And it's, what if somebody is... And I have a friend that does this all the time, always says, I'm inside my head. I'm inside my head. And I said, you're overthinking it. You're overthinking it. I'm inside my head. I just can't get out of my head. What's your advice for somebody? And she'll deeply think about stuff and like, stop, you don't need to do that. You just don't. How do you deal with that?
Always thinking hard and never accomplishing anything.
Pretty much that's that. You know what? You've got her number. She does that. And it even happened yesterday. I'm like, stop, it's okay. Or she'll text me, well, that happened. Now I'm thinking about this. I'm like, get out of your head.
When someone's always thinking about something, Steve, what happens is they're caught in this thinking feeling loop, right? They feel like that they can't let go of the emotion. So how I would work with that is I would have them sit quietly and think about what really is generating this emotion. Why are they not able to let go of what's happening? Because they worry too much or they're afraid too much. So we'd work on fear, on feeling safe.
Yep. And you're right. In this person's situation, they've been through a lot and there's a lot of triggers. And they admit it, something will come up. It could be just a random word and boop, something's up.
So let me make a comment here about something that's important, I think, to talk about. It takes the brain about a year to turn around and about 2 years for change to be permanent in the brain. You cannot do this work once or twice. That's why when I'm working with someone in a 52-week period, I might see them 25 times or 20 times because we have to work at constantly reminding our brain. If you don't have someone guiding you, it's really easy to get lost in that. I mean, our intentionality, how intentional we are, is really super important. I also want to bring something else up. What you do first thing in the morning is more powerful than anything. So if you're aware of your behavior about what you're doing in the morning, you can change anything. Your self-awareness in the morning, slowing down, be aware of who you are in the morning, take a half an hour or 20 minutes and don't get super busy. Just kind of slowly acclimate towards your day. It will completely improve your day.
Amazing. What a great tip. And what we're talking about is not something, it's not overnight. Unfortunately, these things aren't. Tell everybody real quick, Dan, they go to your website, they learn more, you have a lot of free stuff on there too.
Yes, there is. I have on the website, there's a tab that says emotions. There's an emotions actually a webpage there also, but at the very top, it's transformedlife.net. And at the very top, there's a little tag there where you can actually take my emotions class for free. And also, if you would like to be coached by me or just have a one conversation with me, I'd love that. There's a tag on that also. So having a conversation with you, I think will be awesome.
Always amazing talking with you, Dan. It's you. There is no life. I'm going to say this, and we got to move on here, but there's no life coach out there that I've ever heard of. And I'm pretty deep into things, and I'm always watching that deals with what's important, and that is your emotions and the core of you. Because unless that's getting fixed, you're not doing this other stuff. And you get to the core of that. So Dan, great having you on once again.
Thank you, Steve, very much.
Thank you. Look forward to talking next time.
You bet.
And we will be right back. Hang on.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.